retransitioning. We're seeing people move from place to place. You have to figure with the interest rates being what they are, we're not seeing as much selective moving. We're seeing more moving out of necessity. And so it's more, so then that kind of goes back to how, if it's in an area with really good schools, there's still competition there throughout the year.
Welcome to the Homebuying Podcast with Marat from The Lending Group. Agents, grab insights from top industry leaders, explore best practices, and redefine success. Stay ahead, stay informed, and take your real estate career to the next level with Marat. Now let's get started.
Hey guys, welcome to our First Time Homebuyers podcast. I have Benjamin Wright here with me. He's an awesome agent out of the Broward, Palm Beach, Martin County, Florida area. So we, I wanted to introduce him and thank him for coming out. And we will chat today about some things that, are real estate and real estate related. So I guess, start off, Ben, how did you get into the real estate world? Like what brought you here?
It's a funny question. So hey everybody, first and foremost, hope everybody's doing well out there. So it's an interesting situation where I've been a realtor or / strategist now for about 6 years, and I want to say real estate selected me. I actually was going through a situation where I was actually studying to be a physician, a doctor, believe it or not.
Oh, wow.
And I literally had like a couple classes left, literally just organic chemistry 2. And I believe I had a trigonometry 2 course left, and that was it. And I was going to study for the MCATs. And so that was all I knew. That was all I did. And what happened was, it just kind of for personal reasons, I ran out of funding, and I didn't know what I was going to do. As far as it's a really expensive track between when you're, out of undergrad and then when you're about to get into medical school. There's no loans in between. There's loans for, in the undergrad department, and then there's med loans and things like this once you get to medical school. And my plan was to have a family member, my mom at the time, support me throughout, but she had some personal situations that took place where all of a sudden money stopped coming, and I was down in South Florida by myself, not knowing how I was going to survive. And so it's an interesting experience where I couldn't really study on medicine anymore because I had no funds to do so. And it got real, so to speak. So I had to figure something else out. So I started waiting tables just to stay alive. And that was extremely awkward. It was I was at a 7-year degree, and I was, in this highly intellectual and academia world all the time. And then now I'm, waiting tables and asking people, what drink they would like and what kind of salad dressing they would like. And the people around me knew that I was kind of alien to it. And it was just interesting. I kept hearing real estate everywhere I was going. People were talking about real estate, or I'd hear something about real estate. And people would even mention to me and say, hey, have you ever considered being a real estate agent? And I was like, not really. No, I'm a scientist. I'm a people person. And I was a personal trainer previous to that, but next thing I know, it was I'll never forget, one Saturday morning, I was kind of trying to figure out where my life was going, considering there had been so much unexpected change in a very short period of time. And this Weichert commercial came on, which is really ironic because Weichert's not really even a brokerage that's really down here. And so this Weichert commercial came on, and everybody in the commercial were crying, and they were so happy and elated that they had just just bought a new home, and they were crying, and I started crying. And I thought maybe it was allergies at the time, but it ended up turning into being a calling, so to speak. I was like, hey, I guess this is what I'm supposed to do. If all I keep hearing it, and all I keep being told is, and everything I read and look at is saying real estate. So I started doing some research and started reading about how real estate's the third most luxurious market in the world in Florida. Or should I say, Florida is the third most luxurious market in the world. And so light bulbs started going off. I started having epiphanies, and I was like, wait, maybe there's something to this. And so I don't know if you believe in manifestation, but it kind of was like law of attraction. I kind of manifested. So I started studying, and it was interesting. While I was studying, I started getting a little bit, as I was studying for the state exam, I started getting a little bit discouraged because I was like, listen, I was just studying for 7 years to be a physician. Now I'm studying to be a real estate agent. And so I remember thinking to myself, am I just going to study things all the time? Like, this is kind of crazy. And while I was studying, I'll never forget, it gets kind of interesting. I started seeing the numbers 333, 444, and 555 every single day in that sequence at that time. And so I guess I kind of felt this momentum like, hey, I guess this is something I'm supposed to do. And this is my next step in life. And so passed the test and kind of hit the ground running. And I sold 17 homes in my first year. I've, been a top producing agent ever since I got here. And, not even knowing what I'm doing here half the time. I kind of, I'm a quick learner and I love helping people and I love being a part of people's, life in a very necessary way. And so as a personal trainer years before I went to school, I learned that you really want to be a necessity, not a luxury, because that was when we went through the 2008, went through a recession.
Right.
And everybody who wanted to still work with me couldn't afford to work with me, or I was the budget cut, if you will, as their personal trainer. And so that's why I studied to be a physician. But then that obviously didn't work out. And, I believe I went through kind of a spiritual awakening regarding real estate. And it's been this kind of whimsical journey.
So how did you go from, your first transaction, and how did you, get the ball rolling from there?
So I knew that. So basically, not being a natural born Floridian, and not necessarily being, homogenous, or should I say, organic to the area, I knew that I was going to have to start off with leads, and I knew that I was going to have to start with, brokerage that provided the opportunities. And so it's actually kind of ironic. I was literally, waiting tables, as I said, to survive. Kind of still kind of in this hybridized world of like, I thought I was going to be a physician, still having a lot of that in my mind, to now saying, okay, I guess I'm going to apply all of the years of customer service and, years of working with people. And so I pretty much signed up with a company called Robert Slack Find Homes. And they are one of the biggest teams in Florida, and they're all about converting online leads. And so I pretty much met everybody through realtor.com. And it was high flying, high volume. I literally within my first week had like somewhere between 6 and 9 showings. And so I told my employer at the time, I said, look, I got to I really appreciate this opportunity. I really thank you so much for hiring me and, allowing me to work here. But I kind of have to just take this. I kind of have to just believe in myself and just go for it. And so I literally quit I gave them 2 weeks, but they were like, it's okay, just go. We know, we get it. And so I gave them 2 weeks, but I just started showing homes right away. And within my first, I want to say 30 to 45 days, I went under contract on about 1.3 million. And literally was writing contracts where I knew the basics and I knew how to protect people. I knew what I needed to make sure of to make sure nobody was exposed or anything like that. But that was about all I knew. And I just relied on myself, loving helping people and, giving everything I had to people. And that's how I was able to, start, being productive, if you will, right from, week 3 to 4. And so it's been this interesting experience where I've just grown exponentially as far as, experience and, and even with perception, and even maturity. I mean, being a real estate agent is not what everybody thinks it is on HGTV. You really have to mature and you really have to learn, how to work, consistently and diligently and be disciplined. And so, that's really, I've learned a lot of skills. I've become a much stronger person and, throughout this process, and I love the people I work for, and I give everything that I have and create, the ultimate, experience for them in everything that I do. And so it becomes this kind of mutual path where I guide them home, and they become a part of who I am. And so I believe it's, something bigger than just real estate. Real estate is just kind of the pathway and kind of, the industry in which it takes place, if you will.
Gotcha. Well, and to your point, how does, like, let's say I'm a buyer or seller, right? And how do I differentiate, or how do you recommend to differentiate from agent to agent, someone that only knows maybe the basics versus someone like yourself now who's seasoned, who's seen, hundreds of transactions and have done so many transactions under their belt and has seen a lot of the things. And, we never see everything, right? There's always like the fun part about our industry, whether it's mortgage or real estate, every every day or at least once a week, something new happens, right?
Of course.
You
Yeah.
think you've seen it all, but you haven't. So how does one differentiate between the two?
I think that's a great question. I mean, I think that, I think that you want an agent that is obviously going to work well with you, understands who you are as a buyer or a seller and what it is that you need. And I think that, it's a matter of them having some transactional experience. I mean, I would not have said this I probably would have frowned upon this if somebody had said this in my year one. But what in the first couple of years, the transactions were very oscillatory and they were very unstable because I didn't know all the ins and outs. And, there's a lot of aspects to this where you have to speak to multiple people. It's not just, it's not just working for a buyer or a seller, but I have to know how to coordinate a title company well. I have to know how to coordinate the lender very well and or if a mortgage is involved. And, also how do you keep other people in the transaction, like the other agent, motivated and inspired to want to give us a price reduction or give us a credit if needed as you go through inspections. So, I think that you want kind of a kind of a kind of a comprehensive individual that gets all the phases, understands all the factors, and so they can bring to you the experience that you need, whether you're buying and selling, depending upon whatever market that you're in. And then somebody who really, becomes an extension of you in that transaction and really has your back. And I think another part of it is you want to work with a successful agent. You want to work with somebody who is established because you don't want money to be a motivating issue. You don't want, a lot of agents that haven't sold a lot of properties or worked with a lot of purchases, they're struggling financially. And I know that plays a big role in how they're going to guide a person. They may try to push them or they may try to, suggest that they do something that, that really isn't really for their best interest, but the agent, wants the transaction, or wants the contract to go a certain way or be a certain way. So, you definitely want to work with somebody who is altruistic and selfless and really puts, you as a buyer or you as a seller as the main focus and as the main forefront of what guides the transaction, what guides all the dynamics of that transaction.
Awesome. That makes sense. And you think that that's like a gut feeling or like a feel, or can you do some research? I mean, obviously you can see you can research how many transactions the agent has. And then I guess as you're interviewing agents, once you get that relationship, right? I think that's very important. Once you feel that someone is looking out for you, like you said, and they're putting your best interest first, is that kind of like the feeling that you get, and then you go with that agent? Is that what
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, I would say you don't need to work with the agent in the area that has the most transactions per se. I think as long as a person has a track record of transactions on a consistent basis, and as long as that you feel like that person, understands what you're trying to achieve, and is going to make sure that becomes the focal point of where the purchase or where the sale goes, is really a part of it. As far as, if you're listing a property, if you're selling a property, you want to be able to listen to the agent. It's really important. There's a very small window when you go to list a property of where you're the jewel you're the jewel in everybody's eyes on the market, where, there's only a 7 to 10 day window period where you really want to try to get under contract within that small little golden period. Once a listing is sitting on market for 21, 30 days, it kind of becomes an old listing, especially in the South Florida region and especially in general. And you actually tend to kind of become a little bit more vulnerable. And so, there's definitely some key aspects. You want to become a true, team with your agent and not just pick somebody who's going to just do whatever you tell them to do, but you want to find, a complementary, figure that really, you two can guide and work together to, utilize the agent or the strategist's perspective of the market with the specific and personable needs of the customer or client simultaneously and synergistically in a powerful manner.
Yeah, no, awesome. And I was actually going to ask, it's not necessarily to look for an agent that just does what you tell them to do, because
That's right.
that may not always be beneficial. And you want someone that's upfront and transparent and may tell you something that you don't want to hear. And I know that that's a tough balance for whether it's mortgage professionals or real estate professionals, because you're afraid of losing that deal if you tell
Mhm.
someone what it is. And that goes again to what you said a few minutes ago, where if you have someone that doesn't have as many transactions under their belt and it's a money motivating or fear, the money is
Yeah.
it's a fear, then you may not get that information from the agent.
Mhm.
Awesome, man. I appreciate that. Well, maybe switch gears a little bit to the market. What are you
Yeah.
seeing in terms of inventory? What are you seeing in terms of buyers? Is it a micro neighborhood type of environment right now? That's what I'm hearing in the
Yeah.
industry. What do you see?
So yeah, so I think that it always is. So I believe that you know, markets always are in always you always have a macro perspective and a micro perspective from an ecological standpoint. And so you always want to look at both aspects. You always want to look at, for example, you want to look at the home, like if we're going to focus on Palm Beach County, you can look at how home growth is still proceeding at 10 to 13% single family homes, kind of like it was, kind of like it always has traditionally. And so, yes, there's been a little bit of leveling off, so to speak, from the last few years. The supply and demand has balanced out a little bit. However, then it goes into the micro perspective of what neighborhood you're looking in or what area you're looking in. For example, to look at Broward, if you're in Cooper City, for example, there's a very high percentage of A+ homes. I should be taking on a listing there in the next probably few weeks to months, depending upon when I can find a house for the people that are downsizing up here in Palm Beach. And they have people knocking on their doors, trying to buy their house because there's not enough homes in that area for people that would like to have children that go to the schools in that area.
So
And then
that's
we're
a driving force in Cooper City, the school district.
absolutely. I think so I think that if you were to slice South Florida is this small little geographical, slit along the coast, right? We're nestled in between the Everglades and the ocean, right? And so if you were to cut that down, that if you were to, kind of dissect that into two pieces, you have family oriented markets and you have travel associated markets, right? And so just to kind of keep it in a basic world. And so the travel markets have slowed way down. We don't see the same, we're not seeing the same, like if you were to look at condos on the coast, you will see a much higher inventory than you saw a couple of years ago. And however, if you were to go into certain areas where it's school based or family based, such as Boca Raton or Wellington or Parkland, for example, we're seeing some of the same situations that we saw back in 2019, 2020. Not nearly as aggressive, not nearly as inflated, if you will, where you're seeing people spending, 10 to 20, 30, $40,000 or more above list price. However, we're still seeing multiple bid situations. We're still seeing, properties going under contract, very quickly. However, what makes it a little bit more balanced is that now it has to be about price. There isn't as many cash buyers out there. There isn't as many, because a lot of what was occurring years ago was that you not only had more cash kind of influxing and penetrating into the markets more than ever, but it was foreign cash from other parts of the country or other parts of the world. And so now that's slowed down a little bit, and we're seeing some of that still. However, we're seeing a lot of retransitioning. We're seeing people move from place to place. You have to figure, with the interest rates being what they are, we're not seeing as much selective moving. We're seeing more moving out of necessity, and so it's more. So then that kind of goes back to how if it's in an area with really good schools, there's still competition there throughout the year. Or if we're in some areas where it's travel associated, where there's always been low inventory, such as in Wellington, for example, near the equestrian areas. There's still very, very low inventory, even to this day. And as we know, the other part of it is that builders can, like Lennar and Minto, they can only build in certain areas. There's only certain areas where there's even availability of new construction, and so that plays a big role. You have certain areas such as West Boca, and in certain areas such as even in other parts of northern Broward where there still is very low inventory, high drive. And so ever more so than ever, there is definitely micro pockets, because you even have some areas like, for example, in Lake Worth, which are now starting to grow and are now starting to boom, where before the pandemic, people would kind of grunt and grumble. If you say Lake Worth, they'd be like, oh, that's not really where I want to go. However, there's affordable living now in Lake Worth where you can get into a single family home with a pool and a nice sized yard for still 650, or under $750,000. And so,
That's funny that that's now affordable living.
totally right. Yeah, I mean, it's funny that everywhere I look, I mean, it's really ironic. I mean, I'm even looking. I do a lot of little investing too, and I was just looking up in Martin County to find affordable areas where I could look to invest or look to, have investments for a wide range of people. And even there, you're seeing the average rate of a single family home is in the high fives now and in the sixes. And so, yeah, there's really no affordable living has now become what a couple of years ago we would have considered, high luxury living. So
Yeah, no, for
it's
sure.
interesting. Yeah.
And so if we're seeing, if people are driven by schools, right? And you were saying that less and less individuals are moving out of luxury. They're moving out of necessity, right? So
That's right, yeah.
do you think we lost that step up buyer? Is that buyer that's going from their first home to maybe not the forever home, but in between? Is that no longer in the market? And that's what shrinking the supply or the amount of inventory?
I think that's a phenomenal question, Marat. That's a great question. It makes me have to think in an interesting way, and that is that I think that there are some. I think the interest rate has limited to where I think the interest rate and the overall market apprehension of what's to come next, I think has kind of put a tampering down of where I think a couple of years ago we were seeing a lot more of that go on, where there were people that were stepping up from $400,000 townhomes to $650,000 to $700,000 single family homes.
Yeah.
And I think that now, again, it goes back to necessity. If they've had 2 or 3 kids in the last few years, and they're waking up with Power Rangers in places they shouldn't, and in toys that are if they're in a house where they just can't live and they're driving themselves crazy, then they're willing to pony up and do what's needed to go move into a bigger home, even with the interest rates being what they are. But I think we're seeing a lot of people that are holding off and waiting, and or are enjoying the last mortgage that they obtained at the price that they obtained it at. And so I think there's a kind of a balancing effect taking place there. And that's why the inventory has gone up in certain areas, is I think that we're not seeing as much movement as we did previously, and we see a lot of people pausing and waiting for more idealistic conditions, for sure.
Got it. Awesome.
Yeah,
And are you seeing anything from the seller side, like any kind of credits, or is it or maybe even reductions? Are you seeing any of that?
Yeah,
and maybe
absolutely. Yeah, as a seller right now, you have to be market aware. You cannot just shoot for the moon. You cannot just put prices out there that you want to. You have to be willing to understand what the buyers are going through. We've seen a lot of, and you've probably seen this in the mortgage world too. We see a lot of new roofs going on before a house is even being listed, for example. I haven't had any of the sellers that I've worked with do that yet, because it just hasn't been necessary. But we see that quite a bit, where we're seeing, as one of the preparational aspects to consider when you're selling your home now is to put a brand new roof on it, because of the insurance situation that's taking place, and also because of there being more competition in the market. You don't want that to be something that's being overlooked. So absolutely, I think from a buying standpoint, we're seeing where buyers are willing to get a little bit more they're able to get more negotiations in place, able to get a little bit more of what they need out of the transaction. And absolutely, contraindicatively, from the seller standpoint, we're now seeing that you have to be a little bit smart about what price you're listing it at and what you're willing to do to get the buyer under contract, because there isn't as many buyers out there, and there surely is not as many cash buyers as there were 2 years ago. So absolutely.
Okay. So if I'm a buyer and, and I am looking for a school district or whatever the case may be, what would you recommend, maybe 2 or 3 things that I should prep myself with or get ready when I'm buying to make me a strong candidate and not still have to go through maybe, 8, 9, 10, 12, 15 offers. And I know maybe that's a little bit exacerbated at this point, but I feel like buyers are still putting out 4 or 5 offers before they go under contract. What do you see?
Yeah, so I think that some buyers like to put out 10 to 15 or 20 offers. Some buyers don't mind it. So some of the nicest people in the world work me the hardest, I always say. But but outside of that, there's a lot of things. I think that the first, if there's a mortgage involved, I think that it's working that out, getting the TBD underwriting in place, just like it was a couple of years ago, getting the underwriting process started, so that way your loan contingency program can be really short. Your loan approval period can be really shortened. Making yourself as competitive as possible is key. I think is a big part of that. And understanding the market that you're going into, making sure that you're looking at the MLS and making sure that you're understanding what the true market conditions are, rather than just inserting yourself into it in the way that you want to insert yourself into it. Too often than not, I see a lot of buyers that that are very aggressive in their offers, or want everything to be a certain way, and those are the ones that tend to struggle, so to speak. Those are the ones that tend to put out 10 to 15 or 20 offers. Listen to your real estate agent. I mean, you hired that person for a reason, you know what I mean? And and I know that suits me to say that, but it's so true. If you're working with the right person, we're only going to guide you the right way. We're going to tell you things to make this easier for you. And I mean, that's really, anything that can make the process, less complicated, and, like having the loan paperwork put together, already being in underwriting. You can also do things such as, if you can get creative, if you have a brokerage account, or if you have, a family member that has cash laying around that's willing to use their pre-approval, you can always do a cash offer and do mortgages behind the scenes if you do it the right way. If you structure it the right way, and you have to make sure that you're not, you got to protect yourself and make sure that whatever the price is, for example, that, it's going to appraise, so that way you don't have any issues there, and so forth. But yeah, I mean, the more creative you can get, the more organized you are. I think are a lot of you can really come into the market and really kind of dictate what you want, how you want it, because you're gonna stand out from the crowd, and then pick an agent that knows how to talk to other agents, and knows how to wheel and deal, and knows how to get you the best deal that you can possibly get, the best value that you can possibly get. A lot of times I'll have a conversation with other agents where it's already negotiated before the offer is even sent. And, it's a price that I know the buyers are happy with, and it's a price that the sellers can live with. And it makes it a really smooth, really simple process. And, within a couple of weeks, we're already ready to close. And so there's a lot of ways to be masterful about it, and take it to a whole other level if you allow the person you hire and your mortgage broker and everything come together in a really kind of strategic and kind of unmatched level, if you will.
Awesome. And just to elaborate a little bit on some of the things that you pointed out. So the 2BD underwriting, which, maybe not everybody knows what that is. We obviously, I have that in-house program here where we take all of the income, we take all of the asset, we take the credit review, and we actually run it through underwriting. So it's not a pre-qual, it's not a pre-approval, it's one step further. The underwriter has seen all of your documents, they've agreed, they've issued a conditional loan approval, and now we're just waiting to pick the property. And then the other item, which you also pointed out, which it works very well, is if you have enough money to put down maybe 20, 30, 25%, and sometimes we can get what's known as an appraisal waiver where we don't have to have a full appraisal, then in that situation, we can combine that with the 2BD underwriting approval and issue a same as cash pre-approval. And I think you and I have done that in the past. And it really suited the buyer because yes, they're getting a mortgage, And yes, it's disclosed they're getting a mortgage, but their offer is same as cash, and they don't have a financial contingency. They don't have an appraisal contingency. So essentially, like you said, the closing date is shorter, the commitment dates are shorter, and it puts them in really a good spot.
Yeah, and it also allows them to. It also, to elaborate too, it also allows them to if there's no other competition, it allows you to really negotiate a much better price.
Yeah.
And if there isn't any competition, and if there is competition, it allows you to beat out the competition. So it allows you to you have a lot more. I don't want to say, I hate to use the word control, but you do. I mean, you have a lot more influence on where the transaction goes, and there's not as many variables that can dismay or dissuade the progression of the transaction itself.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, thank you for that. What about if I'm a seller, right? So what can I do? How can I prepare myself as a seller, whether I'm in that super hot area, or maybe I'm just like in a medium area? What are the three best things you recommend when you're going to listing it?
So there's three. I would say that the three best things I recommend is, one, to market your property in an atypical fashion. But that's kind of always the case, but even more so in today's market. One of the things that I'll do is I do coming soon a lot. I'll put out the property. I'll make sure, I put out the property long before, like it's up to about 21 days before you're going to actually list the property. And so, you kind of get a market test. You kind of get an idea, because people that are looking in those areas, you'll start to get some traffic. You'll start to get some phone calls. So I highly recommend doing the coming soon, and then literally the first couple of days, time it out to where the first day or so that you're on the market is a weekend where you can have an open house. And a lot of times, as long as you're priced accordingly and there is a demand for the property, a lot of times that's how I'm able to sell a house within less than 3 to 4 days. I mean, and make it seamless, where you don't have a lot of showings, you don't have a lot of floor traffic, you don't have a lot of people coming in. Where, for example, with the open house, we'll do a raffle. Sometimes we'll do, have, drinks or refreshments, should I say, and, maybe some hors d'oeuvres, and really make the property stand out. I mean, if especially, it depends on how much you're willing to do, what the condition is of the property. For example, if you need to put a roof on a house, or if the roof is towards the end of lifespan, and, you see in your area that there's a range in the comps, the comparable sales, where you can make a little bit more per se, or a little bit less, by give or take 15 to 30,000. I highly recommend doing the roof, putting a brand new roof on the house. And so, one, you'll stand out from the crowd, and two, the buyers won't have any issues obtaining insurance. And so it's going to be especially in today's climate, those are definitely some things that I highly recommend. Is staging everything and setting up everything, and then pricing it low is something I really, and I know that sounds counterintuitive, but the more you have this really small window of where your property is the golden goose, if you will, of the market. And so you can never list a property too low. It's kind of an interesting thing, because you'll always have either multiple offers or an offer that's at around market price. If you go low, if you go too high, you can sit out there and become an older listing, and all of a sudden you're coming down, the price is coming farther and farther down to where it's actually lower than where you may have been able to sell for $10,000 to $20,000 higher if you had gone lower from the beginning rather than higher and then have to go lower later. So those are definitely, if you put those into a combination of how you list the property, one, you're going to stand out from the crowd. Two, you're going to sell within a matter of days. Sometimes I've had properties, especially even within the last year, we went on coming soon. There was somebody looking in the neighborhood. We let them, you're not supposed to let people in the property while it's coming soon, but you let the second you can change it from, coming soon to active, or that you are, you have that person come in. I had a property up in West Palm that sold for $17,000 above list price within less than 24 hours that way.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this, as we're kind of getting closer to wrapping up. Where do we find you? How can we get a hold of you? What's the best way?
Well, best way to find me is either through my website, Real Estate Agent Ben, .com, or obviously email youragentben.com, or contact me through Zillow. I actually have to kind of admit something, and that is I'm not a social media person, so it's something that I'm really going to be working on in the next year to kind of bolster up. But you can also reach. I am on Facebook. I just am terrible with social media. It's not something that is natural to me. So through you, obviously they can contact me as well. But yeah, through my website, online through Zillow, through Realtor.com is another way. I'm out there if you're looking for me. And every time somebody brings that up, I'm like, man, I gotta get on that social media thing. I gotta work on that. So
gotta get the QR code.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally.
Awesome, man. Well, is there anything else you want to add to whether you're a buyer or seller? Any last words of wisdom, so to speak?
No, I mean, I think that, I think it really, last words of wisdom would just be, selects, don't always go with, one of the things I've learned is that there's a lot of heart and a lot of love and compassion in the kind of the middle ground of agents that aren't a big machine, aren't that have there's a lot of agents and agent teams that do hundreds of transactions out there, and they have, a whole team of people and stuff. And what I've realized, what I've seen is they lose touch. They're not as efficient sometimes with their hands aren't on everything. And so you kind of have to work with this person when it comes to this situation, or that person when it comes to another situation, which there's no, I'm not biased. Sometimes that's the great fit, but really find an agent that works best for you, and somebody that, is really somebody you connect with and who's going to create the best transaction with you. So there's kind of a balancing there where you want an agent that has transactional experience, but you're not necessarily going for, the number one agent in the entire area, because there's benefits of both worlds. And so just kind of understand it based on what you're looking for. If you want that hands-on experience, if you want, somebody who's going to really get to know who you are, you really are looking for more of that balanced middle ground. And then there's benefits of working with, the elite agents. They have certain that are on the top of do hundreds and hundreds of transactions. They may have some resources that others don't. But I've seen in my experience where the top agent in the region actually sold a home lower than what I did, because they just look at it from a statistical standpoint, a numerical standpoint. They don't really understand how they can become more customizable and personable. So again, it's really a matter of finding the fit for what you need out of that transaction and letting the agent take it to the highest level possible from there.
Awesome, man. Well,
Yeah.
I appreciate you making it out. Those of us that are listening, I think you put in a lot of good information into the world and into hopefully their minds and heads. And so, as always, man, appreciate you coming out. And guys, Ben's awesome. So if you're in Broward, Dade, Palm Beach County, or Martin County, check Ben out, and soon he'll be on social media.
Yeah, someday I'm getting there. I promise.
Coming to social media soon.
I promise, guys.
All right, man. Take care. Appreciate it.
You too, Marat. Thank you so much.
Bye.
That's a wrap for today's Home Buying Podcast with Marat from the Lending Group. Real estate agents, keep thriving and stay ahead with expert guidance from Marat. Join us again next time, and together, let's build a successful real estate future.